Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome to another episode of the Getting the Win show. Of course, my mission with this show is to help take you from being a procrastinator to a producer. That is my whole job. I'm your host, Mellissa T, the Procrastination Bully. Welcome. If this is your first time, huge welcome. For those still rocking with me, welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to go over 10 different journal prompts to help you unpack the goals in your mind, unpack the questions that you may need to ask yourself to propel yourself forward towards your luxury item. Now, journaling is a powerful thing. You've heard me talk about it in several episodes if you've been rocking with me for a while. But journaling is important in that it does help you unpack what's in your head. It gets it out of your head and onto the page. That's the power of light. Things that remain in the dark or remain in your head, they have a tendency to grow because they're not tethered to anything. They're not anchored to anything. The moment you put it on a page, it is in the light, it shrinks down to size. You can see what it is and you can take action on the thing. Whatever that is you're writing down, whatever those answers are that you're jotting down, whatever the ideas are that you're jotting down. And don't worry, this isn't the only journaling episode I'm going to do if this is something that's of interest to you. This is the first of several. But I wanted to present you with 10 helpful prompts or 10 helpful concepts that you can use going forward to vision cast what your luxury item is. Even if you've already done it, perhaps it's about time to revisit it and reevaluate whether or not it's still the luxury item for you, whether or not it's something you still really want as bad as you want to breathe. You know where that comes from, right? But I want to make sure to go over these, and we're going to go over them in 3 categories: task and habit tracking, vision casting, and the last one, which is more of a bonus one, which is deep work. And this is why I'm saying this particular video on journaling isn't the only one, because there is a whole slew of deep work journal prompts that I'll have for you. So if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to stay all the way till the end of the episode to catch the first prompt of many in terms of the deep work. But I'm going to start with the habit tracking and task tracking category. Okay. We've got 4 in there. We've got a bit of a hybrid one that's half habit tracking, half vision casting. And then we've got 4 vision casting prompts and then the deep work prompt. Okay. So starting with task and habit tracking, the first one that I want to share with you is the concept of task and habit tracking templates. So if you're someone that wants to start a new habit or restart a habit and you don't want to fall off the wagon again, there are plenty of habit tracking apps and templates online. So that's the first one I want to present to you. Like, there are plenty of templates online, charts and spreadsheets that you can use as habit trackers. And as you've heard me mention before, if you've watched my previous episodes, E.T., the hip hop preacher, presented one during his More in 2024 challenge. So you can likely research that online and download that one. But that was also to help folks who participated in that challenge keep track of their habits to make sure that they were doing it every single day. That's number one, like, research habit trackers. If that's something that's relevant to you, research some templates that you can find online or research apps that you can find online that are specific to habit tracking. That's important. And writing things down is important because it implants the idea into you physically. It's not just in your head, but now you're also making a motion to write it as well. So it deepens the impression. It makes you remember it more. It deepens your commitment to it. That's why that's important. Okay. So first one, habit tracking charts and templates and apps. They're options for you. Okay. The next one is a commitment log, what I call a commitment log. Sounds unsexy, but I'm going to unpack it for you. So I learned this recently from one of my coaches. Shout out to WINSday Naval. He basically simplified it. This gentleman is a pilot air traffic controller. So he's someone who is pretty self-driven. Like, he doesn't need a whole lot of accountability. He holds himself accountable, does a great job of it. But what he does do, he does journal and he logs the commitments he made for himself for that particular day. And then at the end of that day, he goes back to what he committed to himself and he tracks, okay, did I do what I said I was going to do? And the beauty of a commitment log like that, when you write down your commitments for the day, and I recommend doing that the night before, or better yet, starting from the Sunday at the beginning of the week. When you write down your commitments before you do them, and then you come back to them at the end of said day, you now also get to quantify your results. You're not only making a log in your head of what you remain committed to or what you were able to complete, you're physically able to see it, and you can count up the tasks that you were able to accomplish versus the tasks that got left undone. So you're now able to give yourself a percentage each day and track your progress that way. You're like, okay, I only did 4 out of the 7 tasks that I wanted to do today. I only did 10 out of the 12 tasks that I said I was going to do today. But with each day that you do that, and you calculate that, you quantify that, you're able to see in real numbers in real time your level of productivity each day. And that gives you something to aspire towards. It pushes you. Like, seeing those numbers push you in a way that you otherwise likely wouldn't be pushed. Okay. So that next one, commitment log, like, write down the tasks that you intend to do that next day or upcoming. And then on the day, when you're done with that particular day, check off the ones you did complete and then quantify it, get that number and see what that number is so you can track your progress. Okay. The next one is tracking your distractions. Okay. Let's unpack this one. This is extremely, extremely important. This particular prompt is powerful, identifying what your distractions are. This is the importance of having a journal that's small enough to fit wherever you can carry it. So, for example, this one, that's small enough to carry in a handbag. But having a journal that's small enough for you to carry, because wherever you are, whatever it is you're involved in, you're able to pull it out at the drop of a dime and log, like, okay, clearly I'm tempted to procrastinate on this. Why? And list your distraction by name, or your temptation for distraction by name. And then identify what it is you were doing before the temptation, or, whatever it is you're in the middle of and that's causing you to become distracted. Is it that your brain has become bored with the task you're doing and you're tempted to drift? Or that transition that I talked about a few episodes ago, mastering that transition is so important, going from one to the other, one task to the other, because you're going from one headspace into another. And that can cause a bit of resistance internally. So logging your distractions, I think, is going to be very helpful for you. Like, in my case, I'm someone who edits books very often. And for me, it's that latter example. It's going from doing one task into doing another. And in some cases, sometimes it's the former. Sometimes I've been editing for a little too long and my brain needs a break. I don't fight it though. I take one because I'm fully aware that that is what my brain needs. I'm someone who is a creative. So while, yes, I do have that structured side where I can correct grammatical errors and I'm all about formatting and everything, there is a part of me that's also creative. I'm a writer, so I like to brainstorm, come up with new ideas, work on my books, that sort of thing. So I'm well aware of my mind's limitations. So when it is time for it to take a break, I take one and then I come back to the editing that I was doing. Okay. So that's a practical example of that. The next one, which is kind of related, is when you're feeling that temptation to procrastinate or in the midst of your procrastination, here's the prompt. Why don't I want to complete this? Why don't I want to complete this? So now you're directly confronting your procrastination. Now you are identifying the source of your distraction and the cause of your inaction. Why don't you want to complete that thing that you're supposed to be doing? Is it because you're bored with it? Is it because it's difficult? Is it because you're going from one task into that thing? Is it because technically it's not your skill set and you need help to work on it? When you get it out of your head and onto the page, again, you're able to see it. It's down to size, and more importantly, you can take action. You can take the necessary actions to fix it. So if it's that last one where it's not necessarily your skill set, but you've been assigned to do it, this leads now into my very next prompt, which is specifying your help. Specifying your help. Who can help me with this? Who can help me with this? So this is now you taking inventory of other people in your network, other colleagues in your workplace, if you're in the 9 to 5 context, that can help you get the thing done. They might have a different skill set than you. They may have a different natural behavior preference than yours, so that their superpower can complement your blind spot. They can help you get the thing done faster because they have a greater leaning towards the task that's been entrusted to you. So, for instance, the reason my services are so important and always needed is that there are plenty of people who are creatives, that's the other half of me, right? I mentioned I'm a writer, so I come up with a lot of ideas. I'm big on brainstorming and storytelling. So there are plenty of people out there that are great at that. So they'll come up with the stories, till the cows come home. Grammar is not necessarily their strong suit. There is a difference between a writer and an author. Anybody can be an author. Not everybody is a writer. Okay. So those of us that have that grammar, that mastery of grammar, we would fall more on the side of writers because we already understand what that is and can polish our stuff from the beginning. So someone would then call me in since I have that superpower. That's my skill set. They probably do have the capability to edit their own stuff, thanks to AI like Grammarly and things like that. Or, Microsoft Word has its built-in grammar editor. It highlights your grammatical errors and can show you how to fix them. It makes suggestions on how to fix them. That's still a time commitment that they may not want to invest. They may have a better idea for what they want to use their time to do. So then they'll hire me to buy back their time, and I'll fill in that blank spot for them, and I take care of the polishing for them. So that might be your case with a task that you're procrastinating on. It might be a situation where it's not really your skill set, but there may be somebody for whom you can ask help. So specify your help, like log all the people that are in your network that would be great resources for you in completing your luxury item or completing the task that is before you, that has been entrusted to you. Okay. Write that down, write who they are, what their skill sets are, what their behavior preferences are, if you know them, based on how I described them in the last episode. Be sure to go back and watch that. And then from there, reach out to them. Reach out to them, let them know what you're doing. And if they're available to help, get their help, whether that's bartering or hiring them, whatever the case may be, get that help. That way you can get the thing done and quit procrastinating, right? Get to that luxury item or complete that task. We are hashtag goal getters, right? Remember that. We goal getters out here. So to recap really quickly on the habit and task tracking section, I talked about habit tracking templates that are available online or via app if you're someone that prefers the tech approach. I mentioned the commitment log. So logging the tasks you need to do from the day before or at the beginning of the week and tracking what you completed at the end of each day to track, did you do what you said you were going to do? So it's building up that commitment muscle, building up that integrity muscle. Did I do what I said I was going to do? Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, tracking your distractions. Tracking your distractions or your temptations for distractions. Like, name them. What are those things that you're tempted to do to procrastinate? Or what are the things that you did do to procrastinate if you chose to give in to the distraction? And what were you doing beforehand? What were you doing beforehand, and how did you feel going into that distraction or going into that temptation? Were you bored? Were you not feeling good physically? Were you feeling out of your league? Whatever the case may be, log all of that, because as you log them each time, you'll start to see a pattern as you review the information that you write down. And that's the biggest thing about journaling, It's a source of data at the end of the day. It might feel like repeat work if you're somebody that's more mercurial, you're someone that's more free spirited, living by the seat of your pants, or if you're someone who's driven and aggressive and journaling seems like slow work for you, it feels like a waste of time. Actually, the beauty of journaling for someone who's more aggressive, this is actually you logging your results and you get to track them. So you get to improve future results going forward. So that's what I would present and recommend to you if you're someone who sees journaling as like slow work or time wasting. It's you logging your results and then tracking the data so you can get better results in the future. For someone who's more free spirited, again, get your help. If journaling isn't something you really feel like doing, either pair up with someone who's willing to do it for you while you talk through the information, or voice record it, because pilots and flight attendants have a tendency to be very vocal. Like they converse pretty often. So by all means, voice record it. Even if writing isn't your thing, voice record it. That's nice and quick. You have the recording, it's instant, you can play it back, you can hear it. Okay, so that's a quick bonus tip right there. All right, so I left off at tracking your distractions. So the next one, which is kind of a follow-up prompt, is why don't I want to do this? Why don't I want to do this? Is it because you feel like you're out of your league? Is it because this is not your skill set, but it's been entrusted to you, perhaps in that sort of 9-to-5 environment? Or if you're building whatever your project is from scratch and you're doing it alone, identify, why don't I want to do this? So that you can then solve it. You can then resolve it. Because if it's a situation where you need help, by all means, that's the next prompt, seeking your help. Who can I get to help me with this? Who in my network has the skill set to fill this gap? And then reach out to them and get your help. So I'm going to get into the vision casting category now. Now, that hybrid tip that I promised is the specifying your help one. That can kind of be part of your task tracking and your vision setting, your vision casting. Okay. So whether you're constructing a plan or strategy from the beginning, from the starting point, or you're revisiting your luxury item, this, specifying your help is going to be very helpful. That sounds repetitive, but it's true. It's helpful. But going into vision casting now, where we're heading into these prompts. So the first vision casting prompt I'm going to give you is what I call possibility model tracking. Simply put, it's taking someone as an example of success for you, whatever that looks like. Say, for instance, your goal is to become a speaker. Maybe you use someone like E.T. or Lisa Nichols or Oprah Winfrey or someone like that who is a successful speaker, Jeremy Anderson, anybody that's like that. You pick that one person as your possibility model and study them. Obsess. In this case, it is okay to obsess. Study them, log what they did to make it work, what they did to become successful, and then list your tasks based on that. List the tasks based on what they did to be successful and make those things your tasks. Okay? Possibility model tracking. You pick one person that's an example of success, study them, find out what they did to be successful, break those down into tasks and make those tasks your tasks. Another one, which is very similar, you can do this one with or without the possibility model. But the question is, here's the prompt. For the person that you want to become, what does that person do? What does the version of me that I want to become do? Write down those habits and tasks and make those tasks your tasks. That's the difference between the last prompt I just shared with you and this one. So you can use a possibility model or you can use this one if you don't feel like using a possibility model. But that version of you that you want to become, what are those things that they would be doing that you're not doing right now? Write down those things that you think that they would be doing and make those tasks your tasks. because that then bridges the gap between who you want to become and who you are right now. Because you're already going to be doing those things that that person does, that version of you does. So if you need a short name for this prompt, future you behaviors. Okay? Future you behaviors. What are the habits and behaviors and tasks that the future you would do? And make those things your tasks. All right. The next prompt is the funeral prompt. It sounds morbid, but it's actually very powerful when you fully write it out, when you fully excavate it. But what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? What do you want people to say about you at your funeral? Now, as a quick bonus tweak to this, Mignon Francois has a prompt that's very similar. Hers is to write out your obituary. Now, the difference between the funeral prompt and the obituary is the funeral prompt is more so, it can be quotes, if you will, like specific comments that you want people to say. That's very brief. The obituary, on the other hand, is literally your life story. And that's what Mignon always coaches people to write when she does her keynotes. Write out your obituary. There is no greater vision casting than doing something like that, because with the obituary prompt, you're writing out exactly how you want your life to go. What that story is that you want people to read on the funeral program that is your biography. What would you have wanted to accomplish by the time you died? Whose lives did you want to touch? How many lives would you have wanted to touch? Are there certain things that you wanted to be able to own and leverage? What kind of difference did you want to make? You know, maybe you have some materialistic goals. Maybe there's certain specific model things you wanted to own, whether car, plane, yacht, whatever. Dream as big as you want to. But that's the difference between the obituary prompt and the funeral prompt. What would you want people to say about you at your funeral? If you're an overachiever like me, do both of them. I would recommend you do both of them. Not necessarily at once if you don't want to. Maybe that's a little too deep. Like maybe that's a little too much for you to be thinking about. But I would recommend you do both on separate occasions if you need to, but do both. I strongly recommend that because that will inspire greater things in your imagination. And it will actually excite you for your future, because whatever you designate for your future to look like, your mind is going to want to now move towards that. In a previous episode, I mentioned the fact that the mind is a problem-solving mechanism. And remember what I said? Whatever question you present to your mind, it's going to give you an answer, even if the question is unhealthy. So the beauty of these journal prompts is that these questions are actually healthy questions. And once you feed your mind these questions, it's going to give you some answers that are going to push you forward toward the goal, toward the completion of the task, toward your luxury item. Okay, so we left off at the funeral exercise / the obituary exercise. Quick recap of that. The possibility model tracking, that was the first one in vision casting. Picking a person that is already doing the thing that you want to do. Picking the person that has already succeeded. They've already gotten the luxury item. Tracking what they've done to succeed and making those tasks your tasks. That's a possibility model tracking, right? The next one is future you behaviors. What are actions and tasks and deeds and habits that the future you that you want to become would be doing? And then make those tasks your current tasks. Set those things up as things you would do current, in present, so that you gradually become that person much faster. Okay? And then what would you want people to say to you, say about you during your funeral? The funeral exercise. What would you want people to say about you at your funeral? And the bonus one is writing out your obituary, specifying what your life story will be when you die, what you want to be remembered for. And then the last one under vision casting is, what would you do if money was no object? What would you accomplish? Who would you become? What would you want to do? This last one ties into several of the other ones I mentioned in vision casting. But what would you do if money was no object? that lends itself towards an abundance mindset, because there's certain things that you can't actually do without the money. You only think money is an object. So it's important to get those things out of your head so you can see them and again, take action. The moment you've been waiting for. If you're the person that was interested in the deep work exercise, this is something that's going to lend itself to healing some internal things. Okay. In previous episodes, you heard me talk about the connection with emotional regulation or mental health as it relates to procrastination. This is one, I believe I've shared this on the show before, but this is one that was healing even for me. So I'm going to share this for you if you're someone that is interested in doing deep work, or what ET calls soul work. But this is called what I call the inner child exercise. This is where you reconcile with your inner child. So what I basically did for this exercise, and full transparency, I did not come up with this on my own. This is God inspired. He downloaded this to me and I did it, and it was helpful, like so healing for me. I am someone who, as I've mentioned before, I'm both ground crew and air traffic controller. And I'm someone who previously struggled with extremely toxic self-talk. It was really bad. The kind of stuff that no one else would ever hear aloud. But what I did with that exercise is I acknowledged my inner child. I spent the first paragraph of it. This took 6 pages in my journal, y'all. But I spent the first paragraph acknowledging her, seeing 7-year-old Mellissa, because seven years old is when my trauma started. So acknowledging 7-year-old Mellissa, acknowledging her brilliance, acknowledging her beauty, her innocence, her deep love for things, her deep love for people, her optimism. The second and third paragraphs acknowledged her trauma and my part in said trauma, respectively. So the second portion of the letter was all of my traumas by name and by time frame, specific, so that the inner child knows that I see her and that I see her pain and that I saw when the pain happened. Okay. So that's something you can use as well. Name the traumas specifically and name precisely when they happened. And then that third portion of the letter is me acknowledging my part in that pain. So for my part, I acknowledge the toxic self-talk. I acknowledge developing that habit. And I shared with my inner child, like, okay, this was something I learned and thought that it would be helpful because I was in that environment. And so I apologize to you because I thought it was going to be helpful. Clearly it was not. It was counterproductive. So acknowledging that inner child, acknowledging the traumas, acknowledging your responsibility, your part in said traumas, and apologizing and asking the inner child for forgiveness. And then the final portion of that letter or this exercise is making a commitment to that inner child. So at the end of my letter, I committed to protecting little Mellissa. I made a commitment that that abusive language will never happen again. That self-talk would never happen again because I'm no longer that person. I had since transformed. So I made a commitment to her. I am a different person. You will never hear that kind of talk again. You will never hear such language from me ever again. And going forward, I commit to protecting you. I commit to protecting you. I commit to being a safe space for you. And in doing that, I felt a bit of a release, not only emotionally and mentally, but physiologically as well. Because remember, one of the things I share with you guys is we trap trauma in our bodies too. And most of the time we don't know it. We're walking around wondering why we're dysfunctional. Sometimes it's just trauma trapped in our bodies. And if we release it, we'll feel a lot better. We'll function much better. And because I developed emotional intelligence, I've learned the different behavior styles. I am now situationally aware. I am now much more equipped to be able to protect her, to make that commitment to protect little Mellissa from internalizing too much or assuming the wrong thing. I'm able to do that. So I was able to make that commitment. So the name of this prompt, this deep work prompt, reconcile with your inner child. If that's something you're interested in doing, by all means do it. Let me know in the comments how it goes. And I mean, that goes for any of these. Use any of these prompts and let me know how it goes in the comments, or which one of these prompts you're really interested in trying. Okay. As always, you can find me on YouTube at Getting the Win. You can find me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. You can follow me in those places. But in the meantime, have a blessed and great and productive rest of your Wednesday. A blessed, great, and productive rest of your week. Peace.